Hi and welcome back to the vlog. Tonight I want to start the legs v-neck pullover with you. Although I have to say I've already knitted one saddle shoulder. It's just because that was my swatch and then I just kept knitting it to the length it's specified. So I've already cast on, but let's talk about this pattern, the yarn I'm going to be using, and then I'm going to continue knitting this project. The yarn I'm going to be using for this is Gilliatt by Rerum Natura in the colorway Tempête, which you've already seen in the daylight because obviously tonight it's pretty dark to see the accurate colorway, but it's a really dark denim blue, which I really love. It's not quite navy, but we're just gonna pretend that it is, just because I'm knitting this as part of my cal that I'm running along my friend Sandra. So it's called the Navy Cal. I mean, I don't know when this vlog is gonna come out, so maybe by the time the vlog does come out it's gonna be finished, but if not, I'll leave everything in the description down below as information if you want to join. So I'm using Gilliatt, which is 100% Portuguese and French wool, I think, and it's 250 meters per 100 grams, and it's recommended to be used on 4 to 5 millimeter needles. I'm using 5mm needles, I think. I'll check it right after, but I think that's what I'm using. And I just love this yarn. I've used it twice before, one in a finished object for my partner. It was the Zipper Sweater Light Man by Petite Knit, and I'm currently using it in the November vest, which I'm knitting for my grandmother. So I just love that it's a French yarn, it's a French brand, but also the yarn is really plump, it's really bouncy. I think this is a woolen spun, I think that's what it's called, type of yarn, and I just love the fabric that it creates. So let me show you what I've done so far. This is the first saddle shoulder panel. Let me talk a little bit about the pattern itself before I continue. I'm knitting the legs v-neck pullover by Ozetta. It's a gorgeous pattern. I've fallen in love with it ever since I first saw it. I'm just a little bit worried that the saddle shoulders being this big is not going to be a great fit on me, so that's why I've chosen to do the v-neck, which I also love the look of, but I think that's also going to help, you know, kind of reduce the size of the saddle shoulder in a way. I don't really know how to explain it. Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe it'll be a great fit. Maybe it won't fit me even with the v-neck. We'll see. I just loved the idea of knitting on this project. I don't know how I'm gonna feel about the finished object, but I just want to try. And I got this yarn, the Rerum Natura Gilliatt, as a gift for Christmas this year, or last year, 2025. And so I'm very excited to be using this gift as an exciting project. So the legs v-neck, if you don't know, but it's a very popular pattern. It's a saddle shoulder, quite oversized, boxy fit sweater. My cat is wanting to play, and this one features a double folded v-neck. I haven't decided yet if I'm gonna fold the ribbing on the v-neck or if I'm just gonna do a simple 1x1 ribbing without folding it down. We'll see. And yeah, so tonight I'm hoping to cast on the second, or to finish the second saddle shoulder, and maybe if I can join them in together to start knitting the back panel, that would be amazing. But I really kind of wanted a simple stockinette project, and I thought this one would be perfect for this winter. Even if I don't finish it by the end of the winter, I think it'll be great to have it at the end of the year. And I was wrong. I'm knitting this on 5.5mm needles to reach gauge, and I'm knitting the size medium. So I think that's it for the introduction, so let me go ahead and cast on the second saddle. Just got one increase row to do and then one wrong side row, and then I'm ready to break the yarn and start the front panels. I finished the saddle shoulders and then I picked up stitches at the bottom of those saddle shoulders. I had a really hard time picking up the right number of stitches following her pickup rate, so I just did another pickup rate. I did about 2 out of every 3 rows, I think. It wasn't perfect, but I think it works okay. I think the one on one side I'm gonna have a little bit of trouble. Here I've got a little bit of a gap, but I'm sure that won't be as visible once I, pick up for the sleeves and stuff. And then you have German short row shaping for the back, which I think you can definitely tell. I'm gonna try and show you. You knit, you pick up stitches here, then you cast on with backward loop stitches, you pick up here, and then you basically go back to here, and then you start doing German short rows back and forth for a bit. And then once you've, basically done all of, reached this point on both sides, that's when you do the back and forth before starting the armhole increases. So I'm going to show you kind of what it looks like now. Obviously it's going to be curling a bit, but you can kind of get a feel for it. Also, if I'm wearing the exact same thing I was when I cast this on, or when I picked it back up, it is another day. I'm just wearing this sweater because it's a newly finished object, so I'm wearing it a lot. But yeah, I've been working on this quite a bit. I mean, it is knit on 5.5mm needles, but also it's a stockinette project, pretty mindless. So it's like my go-to at the moment to grab when I'm in a meeting or something. And so yeah, I'm gonna finish the back panel and then hoping I can start one of the front panels tonight. Hiya! I have, as you saw, finished the front panels, so now I'm ready to join it all together in the round. But I thought I would do a little update before I do. I've got so much yarn. I have been weaving in my ends as I go, but there's a lot of ends to weave in. But it is a saddle shoulder, so that makes sense. But this is what it's looking like. It's a little bit tricky to show, but I've finished the back panel. I don't remember if I mentioned, so I'll mention it again just in case, but you do have some German short reshaping in the back panel. I've got to cut my end here, but... And then at the end, I think I said, at the end you have some armhole increases that you do. And then you pick up the left shoulder first from the saddle shoulder, from the saddle panel, which is here. You pick up stitches here, and then you knit the panel with German short shaping and increases along the v-neck. And then once you reach a certain point, you also have, oh no, what am I saying? Do you? No, that's it. And then with the v-neck increases. I messed up, and I don't think it's too bad of a problem, but I did the same number of stitches before you do the increases for the v-neck as on the back. So let's say you have to knit to do an increase, knit the rest of the row. I did knit 3, do the increase, and then knit the rest of the row, which is the same thing that you do on the back. And so I misread the pattern and thought it was the same number for the front panels, but it's not. So I on purpose did the same mistake on the right panel. It's just 1 stitch off, so I don't think it matters. And yeah, I did the right panel as well, so you do the same thing. And now I'm ready to join in the round. I think, I haven't read through the pattern, but I think you basically join in around even the v-neck. So you add stitches for the v-neck, you add stitches under the arm, and everything is all joined together. And then it's just going to be stockinette and around, no thinking. It's going to be great. I've been really craving a mindless stockinette project. The fact that I have to film this, even though I want to film it, but the fact that I do have to film it makes it just a tiny bit more difficult, because I have to think more of like, oh, actually I'm at this point now, I should film something. So it's not as mindless as I would want it to be, but I really want to make a project book for this because I just think that's fun. And it's my first time doing saddle shoulder, so yeah. But I'm very excited to just knit mindlessly in the round. Also, this is knitting up so fast. Granted, it is knit on 5.5mm needles, so it's a bit of a faster project. And I feel like because you knit the saddle shoulder part, once you're doing the back panel or the front panels, because you have that large amount on the shoulders, then the front shoulders are maybe a little bit shorter than you usually would do for another type of construction. And so because you've knitted like the saddle shoulder in parts, then the back panel and the front panels, everything is kind of like in chunks that are quick to go through, and then you're just directly knitting in around and on the body. So I'm excited for that, and I'll see you whenever I've got another exciting update for you. Bye! So apologies for the lighting, it's after my work day, so obviously, you know, quite late. This is very big. But I just finished my, I think, second bowl of Gilliatt. I think I've still got 3. And I think I'm ready to start the ribbing, so I'm just going to finish my round and then I'll start the ribbing. But before I do that, what I like to do when I finish a skein, like the first skein on the body, obviously with Gilliatt it's 100 grams, so it runs quite long. But yeah, because I finished that, I want to do the neckline now. That's something that I really like to do as soon as I can, just to see the finished product. And I just think that's going to be a good change from knitting on the body, especially because I think the 1x1 ribbing on the hem is going to take a while. Not that much because it is knit on 4mm needles, but still. But it's looking so good, and I mean it knits up so fast. I have been stress knitting on this a lot, so I think I knit the body in basically 2.5 days. I mean, I haven't done the ribbing, but still. I'm following the pattern exactly for the body length because, well, to be honest, I don't want to think about it, but also because it's going to be quite a boxy, oversized sweater, I want it to be quite long so that the proportions work together, if you know what I mean. So yeah, this is going to be pretty big, but I'm excited about it. So let me start the V-neck. I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea what this vlog is looking like, so I hope it's still a good project vlog for you. But I've been wanting to not think too much on it because, as I said, this is a mindless project for me. So I finished the neckline and I've also finished the body. So I'll try it on afterwards, but I really love how this is looking. I'm so excited to knit on the sleeves. Right now it's at a point where it's looking a little bit odd when I wear it. I think when I hadn't started the body ribbing, it looked really good with just the color and the body. But now that I've added the body ribbing, which is quite long, and obviously because it's not blocked yet, it does cinches in a bit. It looks a bit funky, but hopefully once I add the sleeves, that's gonna be better. But yeah, so I did the folded down v-neck collar, and this was really quite easy to do. I don't think it's the neatest around the V, but like you and I are gonna know, but nobody else is gonna notice, so that's fine. What you do for this is that you basically pick up all of the stitches. I ended up picking 4 more stitches than recommended, especially like from the top of the saddle shoulder and down to the V. That's where I had 2 more stitches on one side, 2 more stitches on the other side, but otherwise I followed the pattern, and then I did 1 by 1 ribbing, and I think I may have needed to decrease 1 stitch, I don't remember. And then you do the central decrease around the v-neck, and then once you have done, I think, 12 rounds of 1 by 1 ribbing, you continue doing the same amount of rounds of 1 by 1 ribbing, but with increases around the V, obviously, which is how that is looking. And then you fold it down. I, as always, when I'm folding down a color, I'm using a needle size larger to fold it down with the cast on edge, because otherwise my necklines are too tight, and obviously you want them to be quite stretchy when you wear them, and so it's very stretchy, so that's good. And then I did the collar as well. So for the v-neck, I didn't do my trick of turning the ribbing inside out because of that central decrease. I wasn't sure how that was going to look, so I didn't want to attempt it, but I did do it on the body ribbing, and I'll show you on one of the sleeves how I'm doing it so that you can like see the whole method that I'm using, which is really my own method. Like it's nothing special, but if it helps any of you, I will show you on one of the sleeves. I think that'll be easier. And I followed the pattern around the number of centimeters to do for the body ribbing, and so I think the proportions are going to be great. I'm very excited to see these blocked, but I think I'll wait until I finish the whole thing before blocking it. I debated doing it before I finish one of the sleeves, because obviously, as it's quite a drop, it's not a drop shoulder, but like the shoulders drop a bit, I think they're gonna drop even more with blocking, so that might help me get the right length. But I think I'm just gonna follow the pattern instructions and hope for the best, because that's just where my mind is at the moment, and I think that's okay. So I'm excited to now, oh well, I'm not excited to pick up the stitches for the sleeves, but I'm excited to knit on the sleeves. So I'm gonna do that. I think there are some German short reshaping at the top of the sleeve before you just knit in around, probably with some decreases. And yeah, I will let you know how I'm doing with the sleeves, probably once I've finished one of them. my lunch break, so I'm on my phone because I don't have that much time, but I wanted to update you on the sleeve. And I finished the decreases mentioned in the pattern. Oh, I don't know why it's got a weird bump at the top of the arm, but I think that's just because of the saddle shoulder that I need to block, obviously. And as you can see, it's not that long. I don't know how much it's gonna drop in blocking, so I'm adding about, I think, 10 centimeters past the last decrease. I think right now I've got about 2.5, and yeah, I like my sleeves to be quite long, so I'm gonna add 10 centimeters and then I'll add whatever ribbing I want for the length that I want. So if it's 9 like the pattern says, that's what I'll do, but it might be a little bit less depending on how that goes. So yeah, but it's looking really good otherwise. Okay, so I've just finished the sleeve just before the ribbing, and I thought I would show you how I switch up, or like how I turn my work to start the 1x1 ribbing whenever I want my ribbing to be neater. So that's the look that we're gonna go for, and that's a trick that I do on my sleeves, on the body, and sometimes on the collar. I haven't done it for this project because it's a v-neck and I didn't want to bother like having to think of how to do the central decrease on the wrong side, if I had to do it differently or not. So as you can probably tell, the ribbing on the collar is a little bit less neat than the ribbing on the sleeve. I mean, I hope you can see a difference. I can see a difference in real life. So I'm gonna switch my needles from 5.5 millimeter needles to 5 millimeter needles for the ribbing, and then I'll tell you what I do. Okay, so now that I've switched up my needles, I am going to knit 1 round, or almost 1 round, of stockinette, so that the delimitation between the stockinette and the ribbing is a little bit neater, and that's also when it allows me to do that German short return. So let me knit up to 2 stitches before the beginning of round. I've got 2 stitches just before the beginning of round, and that's actually when I'm going to turn my work, because I found that if I do it on the last stitch of the round, then it makes when I turn back on the last round before starting the double knitting, then I find that it does this jog even weirder. So I've started doing it on, just before the beginning of round. So I'm turning my work now. And if you've never done a German short row turn, then you can see that my yarn is in front of me rather than being behind me. And obviously that's also because I'm on the purl side. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna slip that stitch and I'm gonna create a double stitch. Now I need to make sure I start my ribbing on the right stitch, because as always when you do 1 by 1 ribbing, the first stitch of the round is going to be a knit stitch and the last stitch is going to be a purl stitch, but obviously because I'm turning my work, that's going to be reversed. So my last stitch of the round, which hopefully you can see, this is my beginning round marker, so this is my last stitch, that's going to be a knit stitch, purl. This one is going to be a knit, and so what I've got to do now is a purl. So I'm purling, and then I'm just going to do a 1 by 1 rib until I reach that double stitch again, so that I can show you how I resolve it. Okay, so now I'm back to the beginning of round, my new beginning of round, I suppose, because I've switched sides, but it's still in the same spot. And I'm just knitting the first 2 stitches, still knits and purls. And now I'm reaching my double stitch, which you can see here, hopefully. So I'm just gonna grab both of those strands and I'm just gonna be knitting it. And now I'm just gonna be knitting 1 by 1 ribbing from the inside out. So this is how I am, but I'm knitting it on the back needle instead of the front needle. And I'm gonna be knitting my my 1 by 1 ribbing like this, and I'll pick you back up once I'm reaching the double knitting so that I can show you how I turn back my work for that. Okay, I've finished almost all of my rounds of 1 by 1 ribbing. So I'm on the last one. For me, it's the 18th round. So what I'm gonna do is similar to what I did for the first German short return, is I'm gonna knit almost to the end of the round, just 1 by 1 ribbing, and then I'm going to do a German short return. Unfortunately, for me, which is not something that's going to happen to you, hopefully, but this is how much yarn I have left to finish my sleeve, and that's just not going to be enough. So I'm actually going to cut that yarn and add a new ball for the last few rounds of double knitting and Italian bind off, which is really frustrating, but that's just how it is sometimes. So I've just got, it's a little bit tricky trick because I'm doing magic clip, but I've got 2 stitches before my beginning of round marker, and so that's when I'm going to turn back. So similarly to what I did on the row before, like starting the one by one ribbing, I stopped 2 stitches before the beginning of round marker. I'm doing the same thing here, and so I'm turning my work again. Now this first stitch, I am just slipping off my needle and I'm creating a double stitch, and that's actually when I'm starting my Italian bind off. So I'm just gonna slip the first stitch purlwise, bring the yarn back in the back, and then knitting the first stitch and slipping with the yarn in front. And so I'm just going to be doing that. Now I am back to my beginning of round marker, so I've got to purl or slip the knit stitch on my needle with the yarn in back. So I'm doing the second row of double knitting, or round I should say. So I'm slipping the knit stitch with the yarn in back and purlwise, and I'm purling my purl stitches. So unfortunately what this means is, and I think I did that differently on the other sleeve, but that's okay. I should be slipping this stitch because this double stitch is supposed to be a knit stitch, but I'm actually going to knit it anyways, and I don't think that will show up too much. So yeah, I think I must have done that differently on the first sleeve. So now I'm just going to be finishing my double knitting, and then I'm going to be binding off. And I hoped that was clear enough, and if it wasn't, I will film that again in another project vlog. Okay, I'll see you when I've finished this cuff. It's done. I can't believe I managed to finish it so early in the weekend. I thought it would be done like tomorrow night. So that's good news. Let's try it on. I'm gonna be honest, I can't wait to see this blocked because I think it's just gonna bloom so well. But how good is it? Oh, I'm so excited. So I finished my legs v-neck pullover, and I've actually been wearing it for a few weeks and I'm in love. I think this is a gorgeous knit. I was really dubious about the saddle shoulder on myself. I thought it would look not that good, to be honest, but I still really wanted to make at least one saddle shoulder construction in my lifetime because I wanted to, I mean, if you haven't tried it, you should. And I didn't have any store-bought saddle shoulder to try on, so I knitted one, and I think it's a success. I've been absolutely loving it. I love the v-neck, but I'm honestly already dreaming of a legs pullover, a round neck. I think that would be also really gorgeous. I love the drape, but that's mostly due to the yarn, obviously, which I'll talk about in a moment. I really enjoyed the pattern. It was very clear. I didn't have to think about anything, which is what I needed with this project, so that was absolutely wonderful. I think the only kind of modification I made was for the ribbing. I shortened it a bit on the sleeve to get the length that I wanted. But other than that, everything is to pattern. I think even the length of the body is to pattern. So yeah, I'm really, really happy with this. I love the yarn. I think it does pill a bit. And I've seen that also in my partner's sweater that I use this yarn for, that he's worn a lot this winter, and it's definitely a little bit pilly. But I think with a little bit of care and with wear, and also with washing it a tiny bit, it's gonna be less and less pilly. That's the feeling that I'm getting from this yarn. And like, it's a little bit pilly, but it's not like unwearable. Like you can see a little bit here. But I've worn this at least 5-6 times since I finished it, so it's not that insane. But I really, really love this. I love the drape it has. I think this is 400 grams of wool, so it's quite light, it's airy, but it's also quite warm. I don't know, I really love this yarn. I would really like to try it with a mohair, because I think that would work even better. But yeah, the sad thing is, which I think you saw in the clips, is that I had to break into my last skein for just the last 2 rounds of the sleeve, which is a little bit frustrating. I mean, I weighed this and this is still 100 grams, so that kind of lets you know how little I used. It's okay. Like, I got all of those balls for this sweater, so if I have to break into it, I'll do it. And I don't even know what I'm going to do with this tiny, like 100 grams ball. Maybe a beanie that will work. Anyways, so let's talk about the stats of this project, because that's always what we want to hear when we watch these videos, I feel like, or at least that's what I do want to hear about. So I cast this project on the 19th of January and I finished it on the 7th of February. So it took me only 19 days to knit, which is absolutely insane. I would not recommend, because now my arm hurts, so definitely don't do that. But also, it was just a really mindless stockinette project that I really wanted to work on, and that I needed, honestly, to work on for my mental health. I really needed something mindless, something simple, but also something that would bring me a lot of joy. And the fact that I finished it in that amount of time is only because I've got a lot of knitting time during the day, during the week. And because I kind of needed that mindless project to kind of feel better. But yeah, don't push it. Like, knitting is a hobby, and the reason why I did this was because it was making me happy, if that makes sense. Let's talk about the cost. So I bought the pattern myself, which was 8.52 euros. However, I was gifted the yarn by my brother-in-law for Christmas, so it would have been 75.50 euros for the 5 skeins that I technically used. I mean, technically I only used 4, but let's say because I did break into the 5th one, I'll count that in the total cost. So with the yarn and the pattern, the cost of this project would have been 84.02 euros, but because I only bought the pattern, it was only 8.52 euros for me. So I think it's pretty good going for a pattern. It was knit on 5.5mm needles as well, so that's also definitely why it was a bit of a quick knit. As I said, I would really love to make the legs round neck pullover one day. I might even make it in this yarn as well, because I love this so much. I might try another yarn combination, we'll see. Maybe I'll make it with a DK plus a mohair. I think that would be cute as well, and would give me a little bit of a different vibe, because if I do sort of the same pattern in the exact same yarn, even in a different color, that, I mean, it's still gonna be gorgeous, but just doesn't give me that much difference, you know? I hope you enjoyed this vlog. I really, really enjoyed making it. And if you have any questions, leave them down below and I'll get back to you. But with that being said, I'll see you in the next one. Bye!